Hello and welcome to the first RRG press conference on this beautiful rainy Monday morning in Lubbock. We're going to be talking about the Gators' loss to Miami this weekend, why it was as embarrassing as it was, and where we go from here. So we'll start with, of course, before the game, Napier telling everybody how good this team was. It's the best team that he's had at Florida. Um, all the strength and conditioning that they've done, the defense is better, and absolutely none of that was seen on the field on Saturday. It was an absolute joke. Um, I can't describe to you going into this game like how excited Florida fans were. We had heard like, oh, you need to be patient with this coach, and it's like, yes, but we're in year 3 now. They're pretty much all his guys. Any guys that are still left from the last regime have been scouted and have been deemed good enough to be on the team at this point. So it's just like for Napier to come out and lie like that, it was ridiculous. But let's go straight into the actual game itself. We'll go over some of the stats and stuff. Um, but in general, our defense looked worse than it has the last 5 years. The one good thing that we have going or that we did this game was get the interception because we did not get a lot of them last year. I believe it was only 3 interceptions that Florida had in 2023. Um, but even after that interception, like the offense couldn't get anything going, so there was no point. This was a game where the offense looked bad, the defense looked bad, and the special teams looked all right, but there was no need for special teams. We weren't, other than punting, we did a lot of that. But I want to take you guys over the drive chart real quick for Florida mainly. I'll throw a couple of the Miami ones in here. But let's go over this offense that Napier came in and said, "Well, I'm the best guy to be calling plays for." We looked for an offensive coordinator. There wasn't really one, so I'm going to continue calling plays. First drive, 4 plays, 13 yards, punt on what should have been a scripted, pretty easy opening drive. 4 plays, 13 yards, and a punt. Second drive, 5 plays, 34 yards, punt. Third drive, 6 plays, 10 yards. We scored a field goal. That came after the Miami interception where Florida got the ball on the Miami 33, I think, 34-yard line. They went 10 yards and kicked a field goal. Couldn't even score a touchdown. Next drive, 5 plays, 33 yards, turnover on downs because we didn't want to punt. Drive after that, 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. Drive after that, 1 play, 71 yards, touchdown. That was the Montreal Johnson run. Next drive was 1 play minus 8 yards, end of half. To start the second half, of course, Miami went and scored a touchdown. Florida, 4 plays, 7 yards, punt. So both of these drives coming out of the half where you could have had plays ready to be ran, a nice scripted drive. You can't get we got a first down on the first drive, but you can't get more than 13 yards. He got 13 yards on the opening drive, and he got 7 on the opening drive of the second half. Neither resulted in any points. You cannot let that happen. Next drive, 11 plays, 51 yards, interception. Next drive, 3 plays, -2 yards, punt. Next drive, 9 plays, 58 yards, touchdown. And then the next drive, 3 plays, 13 yards, interception. I just don't understand this. I'm not going to hire an offensive coordinator. Like, if you were scoring like it was Steve Spurrier in the 90s, I would get that to a certain extent. But this is, like, just not good. Graham Mertz had 91 passing yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. That's unacceptable, especially after the year we had last year. Or the year Mertz had last year, where everyone was singing his praises, good completion percentage. No, he looked like the Graham Mertz that was playing at Wisconsin, and this being the second year in this offense, and what we all expect to be a more talented offense than it was last year, is unacceptable. But let's go over. He was 11 of 20 for 91 yards, 1 interception. He had a 19.1 QBR. That is never, ever, ever. Like, that's not even going to get it done against Samford. Like, I know people want to sit here and there's a 98% chance or whatever that Florida wins. The last time we played this team, they dropped 52 on us in the Swamp. Like, we're going to have to score this weekend, or there's a very, very real chance that the Florida Gators go 0-12 this year. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the talent on this roster stumbles their way into a couple of wins, but the coaching isn't there. You know, most Gator fans that I've heard, they've got nothing but good things to say about the talent and the kids that Billy Napier is bringing in. So clearly there's a missing link, and that missing link is the coaching. The coaching just isn't there. Quarterback coaching isn't there. The offensive line looked about as bad as we've ever seen a Gator offensive line look. It was a problem last year. It was supposed to be something that we fixed. We didn't really pick up any recruits on the offensive line, got a couple of transfers. Everyone was like, oh, the offensive line will be better. Like, we really thought an offensive lineman from, a G5 school was going to come in and just be able to handle SEC defensive linemen like day one. No, that was dumb to think. I don't know why we thought that, but it's pretty clear that the offensive line is going to remain an issue. Montrell Johnson had 11 carries for 161 yards, and I don't like to be the guy that like just takes away one of those runs. But if you take away a 71-yard touchdown run, he had like, what is that? 35 yards on 10 carries. Like, the yards per carry isn't good. The amount of carries he's getting isn't good. Like, I know our running back room is decent, but I think Montrell Johnson is by far and away the best that we have. But it's not going to matter if he can't do anything because our offensive line doesn't block. And then to go on the defensive side of the ball, it feels to me, and I know this isn't true. I know there's certain packages and different blitzes and different things you can run. But it has felt for the last 5 years that the Florida Gators run nothing but a zone defense 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. Because there's so many times where a team's wide receiver will just be sitting in the middle of the field, like 8 to 10 to 12 yards down the field, and he's wide open. Like, if we're running man, nobody's covering, and if we're running zone, whenever he gets into the dude's zone that he's in, that defender's not, there was no push by the defensive line. Like, I don't care what PFF says about how many times we pressured Cam Ward, there was no pressure. And when there was even the slightest amount of pressure, it was because somebody wasn't in Cam Ward's running lanes, and he just took off for 10, 15, 20 yards and then just strolled out of bounds. There were, like, Pup Howard did well, but there's nothing. There's nothing to look forward to under this coaching staff. I'll be putting out an article a little bit later about what coaches I think Florida should go after, or at least give a call to. But until this changes, it's not good enough. And I don't know how there's Florida fans that can sit out there and be like, this is fine, we just have to be patient. We're in year 3 now of the transfer portal and NIL era. If Billy Napier doesn't have his guys, it's simply because those guys don't want to play for Billy Napier. Simply put, like, there's no other way around it. It's not going to be like the 4th year is some magical year where, oh, he's got freshmen to seniors are all his guys. No, there's no magic formula. He just needs to coach better. He needs, like, there's no point in even talking about his on the field coaching in the Miami game because there was no point. But even when we get the interception against Miami, we can't go 30 yards to score a touchdown. That changes the whole game. The entire game. We're the most disciplined team in the country. Oh, cool. Well, explain to me how we got a roughing the passer that extended Miami's drive. It's just everything that comes out of his mouth at this point, I don't know if we can trust to be true. And so I'm going to go into every game, and I hate doing this, but I'm going to go into every game thinking the worst. That we're going to play really bad, we're not going to show up. And if we end up winning by 40, cool. But there's not a game on our schedule this year that I think we win by 40. I think the Samford's game is going to be a lot scarier than people think Mississippi State is probably our other easiest game, and we have that game on the road, and we never perform well there. So I just there's no part of me that thinks that this is going to be a good season for the Gators. Offensively we're bad, defensively we're bad. We made it through special teams without any penalties. 10 men on the field, anything like that. We'll see if we can get through a whole season, but Billy Napier's he can't make it at this point. It's like this is the last straw, I think, for a lot of Gator fans. I wasn't super high on Billy Napier when he got hired. It felt like a group of five hire, but it's just there's been nothing, right? The one thing we hang our hat on is that recruiting class where he brought in, Graham, Lagway. Okay, that recruiting class was third or fourth in the country on signing day, and then it fell apart because those kids didn't want to play for Napier or because they got offered more money somewhere else. But I have a hard time believing. I know Scott Strickland and the whole like money, our NIL and Florida Victorious thing is all screwed up. But I have a really, really, really hard time believing that the University of Florida is just getting bulldozed by these other colleges in terms of money. Like, it's just, there's no reason. And then they turn around and be like, well, fans need to subscribe to the. No, it's never been my job to pay players. And just because NIL is a thing now doesn't mean you can expect your fans to pay, right? It's your job as a coach to do well enough to get the donors to want to donate. We're the University of Florida. Like, we have people that go on to do big and great things that love the football program. There is absolutely no reason that other colleges should have more NIL than us. Outside of like maybe Ohio State, like Alabama, Georgia, but it's just I don't get it, man. And I'm not blaming the donors. I don't think it's the donors' fault that they don't want to donate. I would want to donate if Billy Napier was my head coach because I know that money is getting absolutely wasted on his fucking staff, his 47,000 people that he hires to do absolutely nothing. I mean, it just doesn't make none of what Billy Napier has done at Florida has made any sense. And the only thing people, can say is, oh, just give him time, have faith. No, that's not, this isn't a business of having faith. This is a business of results. We're in game one of year three. He's not done anything. He's yet to have a winning record at the University of Florida. Like even Dan Mullen, right? And we can talk about recruiting and all that stuff, but Dan Mullen had Florida in 3 straight New Year's Six bowls. And once like on the cusp of making the playoffs, like we were almost there. And we fired that man in year 4. Well, Billy Napier's come in. All right, cool. You give him the first year, don't really count it against him. But by the second year, maybe he doesn't make the playoffs, but 5-7 isn't good enough. And now we're in year 3, and everything was supposed to change, and now we are genuinely staring down the barrel of a 2, 3, 4 win season. Get this man out of Gainesville. That's all I'm gonna say on it. I don't want to be a super negative Gator fan. I hope y'all have a good week. I'll be back to talk about Samford in a little bit, but all right, let's beat Samford. Peace out, boys.